They'll show some national poll that shows Biden ahead of Trump by 2 points, and my answer is who cares. National polls don't matter. Mystery is surrounding the 2024 election, and after Trump's convincing win in the New Hampshire primary, no topic is gaining more traction these days than Trump's pick for vice president. Now some Project Vivek Ramaswamy may be in the running, others suggest Chris Christie, Nome of South Carolina. So for that answer we reached out to legendary macroeconomist Jim Rickards, who correctly predicted Trump's surprising win over Hillary Clinton in 2016. Jim, a lot of conjecture about this right now. Who do you think is on Trump's short list of potential running mates? Right, it's a great question, a subject of a lot of speculation, and you're right. It's very early in the season to even be discussing this, but I agree with you that the likelihood of Trump being the nominee is clear. He will be the nominee ABS in some extreme event. It's probably not too soon to start having the discussion. We have the South Carolina primary coming up at the end of our February. We'll see what happens. Nikki H is putting her bets on the table because she was the former governor of South Carolina. She's from South Carolina. She thinks that's her a good chance, but the polls don't back that up. The polls show Trump with just as big a lead, maybe bigger actually, in South Carolina than he had in New Hampshire. And you're right, he won New Hampshire. He got well over 50% of all the votes. Nikki Haley was about 12 points behind, but that included a lot of Democrats in New Hampshire. We have what's called an open primary. If you're an independent, the Independent Party, it's not a party, but those who declare themselves independent are the biggest group in New Hampshire. It's about 30% Democrat, 30% Republican, and 40% independent. So all those independents can walk into the voting booth or thing area on election day and request either ballot. You can ask for a Republican ballot or a Democrat ballot. You can't get both obviously, but you can. And I know people, a lot of, I would say, Democrat-leaning, left-leaning New Hampshire residents ask for Republican ballots for the sole purpose of voting for Nikki Haley because they hate Trump. So we don't have to dig any deeper than that, but that was probably as good as it gets for Nikki Haley because of that group that were really not voting for her. Even though they were voting against Trump, and Trump still won going away. So South Carolina, the margin's even bigger. My expectation is that she'll actually drop out of the race before the South Carolina primary. We'll see what happens, but she's saying no, and she's apparently got the money, but she's going to lose pretty badly in South Carolina. So at that point the race is over. We still have Super Tuesday, like I think 10 big state primaries that day, and then that's in March, and then the XL, or what they call the XL primary, which is the sum of the northeastern states. But it's pretty much over, so let this speculation begin. The short list, you would see the people who ran against Trump now. So forget Chris Christie. He's I have my views on him, but Trump can't stand him, and I think the feeling is mutual, so you can cross him off the list. Same thing with Nikki Haley. A lot of people say, wouldn't Nikki Haley be a great choice because she's a woman and she has a lot of support among independents and independent women and Trump neos, etc. Some of those factors are true, but Trump is kind of he holds a grudge, I put it that way. So the fact that she hasn't dropped out, hasn't endorsed him, that's probably enough to cross her off the list. And by the way, there are a lot of Republicans, and Tucker Carlson has said this, but I know a lot of people who agree, who say, I like Trump, or I would vote for Trump, or I like Trump's policies, but if he picks Nikki Haley, I'm not voting for Trump. That's not about Trump, it's about Nikki Haley. She's a neocon, she's a warmonger, she's a Bushy in disguise. She's part of the Uni Party. There are lots of reasons if you're a real so-called MAG Republican not to like Nikki Haley, so I think Trump knows that. Hopefully I'm sure he doesn't, so I'd cross her off the list. I'm not really answering your question, Doug. What I'm doing is I'm eliminating a lot of people of the BR Swanee smart guy you I met him up in New Hampshire it's a great thing. About the New Hampshire primary it's retail politics at its best they all the candidates go to town halls and bars and country clubs and you really can meet them and shake hands to get a picture and all that good stuff the Vexes are sharp smart but he's very young which we probably need at this point but he'll be around in 2028, 2032 and 2036 for that matter so there's no rush to put him on the ticket he'll be back and days sis I personally like a lot of his policies I know his campaign never caught fire he seems to lack the X factor the charisma factor but I do like his policies he's a smart guy I like him, because he's a doer a lot of people talk about things. And you might agree but the question is do they actually do them do they actually get them done and Des is a guy who does but the problem with Trump to sis is this is the 21st century too. Conservative white guys are what is that get you in terms of broadening the base or attracting other voters etc. So I'm not in favor of Day I'm not in favor of quotas or affirmative action or anything else. But I am a realist about politics and I don't think that's a ticket that necessarily gets you very far other than Trump himself and so that opens up a couple really interesting choices. The one I would rank most likely and again this is not a hard and fast prediction. It's I'm not going to put a stake on the ground but the one I would rank most likely is Elise Stefanik and everyone like who's Elise Stefanik well she's a member of the House of Representatives a congresswoman from New York so just the fact that she's a New York Republican is unusual because New York is as we know heavily Democratic. But there are a lot of upstate areas away from New York City and Buffalo where Republicans can hold their own but she is in the leadership she's the number I believe. The number 3 ranking Republican so you have Mike Johnson who's the Speaker of the House you have Tom Emmer who's the majority leader and then I believe Elise is number 3 she's either the whip what they call the whip or they have a policy committee head or caucus head and she has one. I forget which role exactly but whatever it is she's ranked the 3rd ranking Republican in terms of the House leadership, so she's proved her ability she's kind of worked her way up the ranks she's very conservative but she has a lot else to offer she's younger she's a woman obviously that will help in terms of it's not going to help with like your most far left Ivy League graduate 35 years old single woman living in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Might not help with that demographic but across the country it'll have